So, good morning or good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. My name is Bettina Herzog and I'm responsible for our regional business development in ASEAN. The fourth COVID-19 outbreak in Vietnam confronted many entrepreneurs with severe restrictions, lockdown scenarios, and even prohibition of operation. These operational and in some cases existential challenges do, of course, also impact employment matters. In tackling this complex challenge, we are more than happy to join the stage today with the Central and Eastern European Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, and together we will focus on the rights, options, and obligations of employers with regard to HR management in times of COVID-19. Before we dive into the specific challenges of HR-related decisions to be made during the ongoing pandemic, let me briefly guide you through the technical side of our program. Most of you will probably be already familiar with it, so I'll run through this quickly. The following functions are available for you. In the upper right-hand corner of your desktop, you will find the control panel. Here you may adjust the audio settings and choose between your computer audio or your headset. Please note that as a participant, you are muted by default. So if you would like to take an occasional sip of coffee or take a bite, you might do so anytime without anybody of us noticing. A little further down, you will find the most important tool, the question panel. Please insert all your questions or comments here for us to take care of. Should you have any technical issues, I will be happy to take care of these at the same moment in the background. But should you have any topical questions, I will take these down and we will be happy to address these in our Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Now, it is my sincere pleasure to leave the virtual floor to Vlad Savin, Head of Business Development and Vice Chairman at the CEEC Vietnam. Welcome to the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bettina, for the kind introduction, and good morning or good afternoon to all the attendees at this wonderful session by Rödl and partner. It's first a pleasure to be able to co-host and organize this webinar together with Rödl and partner. They're one of our newest members of the CEC community, and I'm actually looking forward to see the insights that they're going to bring looking at the employment part in Vietnam. And we all know that it's thorough, complicated, and the right level of advice definitely is needed, especially in this time during the post-pandemic world, let's say. I'd like to give initially a quick introduction on the Central Eastern European Chamber and how we support businesses here in Vietnam, and then I will let the speakers to continue with their webinar. Essentially, our goal here as a chamber is to support foreign invested companies from the Central Eastern Europe looking into entering Vietnam with understanding the market and realizing what potential exists for them here in Vietnam. As well with that, we support existing companies here in Vietnam that operate for many years from Central Eastern European and Vietnamese businesses as well that are looking to do business with Central and Eastern Europe. Together, we focus to bring these companies and these businesses under a community where we try to nurture the information that is shared across and the value that is shared across between everyone involved. So we're looking at representing around 15 countries in Central Eastern Europe. Most of them coming from Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Austria, and so on. And the range of ways how we support these companies starts with networking opportunities, understanding essentially how they can work together and collaborate through various channels with existing channels here in Vietnam and abroad, through events, through webinars like these ones, and through other types of business promotion activities, essentially. For example, we're looking at business events and business seminars like these ones that are online. We're looking at business guides and publications that support the business community to really understand what is happening in Vietnam and how they can leverage their resources here for better outcomes for their business. If you can move to the next slide, Bettina. the next one. That's right. So we nurture quite a lot of, let's say, diverse businesses that are active here in Vietnam, and I'd like to highlight a few of them. Technology is one of the core, let's say, businesses from our memberships. Manufacturing as well, obviously, pharmaceutical and healthcare, venture capital, trade and consultancy, banking as well. For example, Raiffeisen Bank is one of the main banking institutions in Central and Europe. They also have a rep office here in Vietnam. So we're looking to promote businesses from quite a range and diverse sectorial overview, and also the sharing and the information that comes between these sectors is quite important, and that's one of the values that we want to bring forward. Through these networking opportunities and business matching, we want to allow these members to actually communicate together. In next slide as well, you will see also the connections that we try to build with the CEC as well, with other stakeholders, looking at government institutions here in Vietnam and trying to lobby for potential regulatory changes, laws, looking at enterprise law, labor law, investment law, things like this, with advocacy plans, and as well looking at working together with embassies, with consulates, with trade offices here from various entities representing these countries that we're aligned with, looking at the Hungarian, looking at the Czech trade office, Polish trade office, which is very active as well. So our external relations match our business focus to support our community, and they're important as well as part of the broad EuroCham agenda. You probably know that EuroCham is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, chamber of commerce here, and EuroCham functions as an umbrella connecting our chamber with various other business associations and chambers here in Vietnam. So together with them, we offer those benefits for membership of networking and community building, which EuroCham has as well built in through the membership that you have within our community. So to finalize, the goals that we're trying to achieve is specific business support with market entry for Central Eastern European businesses that are looking to understand better what's happening in Vietnam, and nurturing that support through networking, business matching, and on-site advice as much as we can, and connecting these businesses with various consultants or various stakeholders here in Vietnam that can bring that level of advice that is needed for these businesses looking at Vietnam. Hence, Rödl and Partner and other firms like them that can actually support you with advice and with the things that you need in the market. So I'm closing my initial introduction here. Thank you very much for joining this webinar, and if you have any questions, looking forward to discuss with you further. And until then, Michael, the floor is yours, and please continue your interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Thank you very much to Bettina for guiding us through the technical do's and don'ts of GoToWebinar, which is always very useful. And thank you very much to CEC and to Vlad in particular for taking his time this afternoon and providing us with a very enlightening introduction about the important and interesting work of the Central European Chamber here in Vietnam. So my name is Michael Wekitzer. I'm the head of Rödl and Partner here in Vietnam, with our two offices in Ho Chi Minh City and in Hanoi, and I'll be kicking us off today on this subject. Maybe just if you give me 2 or maybe 2.5 minutes, just given the fact it's the very first event we're doing together with Central European Chamber, I thought it would be just useful, just give you really just 2 minutes an overview about Rödl & Partner and what we do worldwide, and in particular here in Vietnam. So first of all, we are a professional service firm and advisory company. We are headquartered in the German city of Nuremberg. There is also a Central and Eastern European connection, to which we will come in a minute. But generally speaking, we are, as you see on this wonderful slides, 106 offices, 48 countries. Could be 1 or 2 more or less given the current development, but this gives you an idea what we do. So basically, we have in all the countries in which we do business, we expect either through ourselves or through cooperation partners to have 4 service lines, which is legal advisory, tax advisory, BPO, which is accounting and payroll services, and also audit services. So if you look at our international reach, as I mentioned, 106 offices, 48 countries, and in particular, if we look at Southeast Asia, we cover the entire region, save for minor with our own offices, save for some countries like Brunei, Laos, and Cambodia, where we do not have our own offices yet. But other than that, we pretty much covered the region here, with our oldest office in Jakarta, I believe set up 1995. And then with big offices in Bangkok, a big office in Singapore and Manila, and so on. If you look here at our work in Vietnam, so here in Vietnam we do offer the 4 core services, which I just mentioned at the very beginning of my brief introductions, and we do have 2 offices. Our bigger office in Ho Chi Minh City and a smaller in Hanoi. Together we have approximately 55 employees working for our teams across all service lines. So I've been present in Vietnam for over 13 years in the current setup, and we are more than happy to support you in whatever advisory requirements you may have. Just to finish us off on this one very briefly, why are we different to other providers? There are many providers in the marketplace doing all sorts of things. I think I would like to highlight maybe just 3 things. So first of all, I think hopefully I made this fairly. It was quite clear from what I said at the beginning, our international reach. So we are in many countries. We go with our clients to the places where they go. I think the second item is, which makes a difference, is the marketplace in which we operate. So our 90% of our clients are SMEs. Mostly from Europe, but not just from Europe. So what I'm trying to say here is we in particular in the market space for international SMEs. So we don't necessarily do business with the big corporates of this world. I mean, this we leave usually to others because it's not such a good fit in our case. But our particular specific marketplace is the internationally active SME. And the third thing I just wanted to mention, we have what we call the caretaker principle. So it's basically what we're trying to do is to be as close to our clients as possible and to get as much involved as they as our clients want, and take their affairs forward same way as we would take forward our own affairs. So that's a brief introduction about who we are and what we do. Maybe a final remark about the Central European connection. So yet again, thank you very much for the Chamber to inviting us, and thank you very much to all the attendees who decided to spend an hour of their time with us this afternoon. So as I mentioned, we are German headquartered. However, the second biggest market after operations as well, with over 400 colleagues, is Poland. In Europe, so that's our first link to Eastern Europe. We do have offices nearly all, I think, Eastern and Southern and Central European countries. So this gives us the opportunity to do the cross-border advisory, which others maybe are not able to deliver in this particular way. And finally, I'm a native of Gdańsk, the wonderful city on the Baltic coast. So everything close to Central Europe is also close to my heart. So therefore, I'm particularly looking forward to do more things with the Central Chamber. So that much to the introduction. Maybe if we just move to the agenda for today. So first of all, you will see in a minute my colleague Han will be joining us after this. So Han is a Vietnamese attorney with despite a very juvenile appearance, with many years of experience in this in an area of advisory for foreign companies and FDI business in Vietnam generally. And let me just talk you through maybe very briefly about the items we're going to cover today. Obviously, we only have 30 minutes for our presentation, 35 minutes, because we want to leave some time for Q&A at the very end. So we cannot cover everything. It's just the idea is just to highlight certain things which may be helpful to you and may sort of give you the opportunity to think and maybe reconsider the things you're doing at the moment. And we also think it's a good time now to talk about these things, because now we came to, especially in Ho Chi Minh City in the southern provinces, a few weeks back we came to the end of a long lockdown with many problems to everyone. Office-based companies less than industrial companies with production. We all know about it, all these challenges we had. So we thought now would be a good time actually to look at these things, because now we have at least some experiences gathered from all these problems, and now is a good time to maybe to think about potential solutions, because first of all, the items we're discussing here will apply to all sorts of other scenarios other than pandemics. And also, we all know that, well, basically in Vietnam, the pandemic is basically under control. However, there may be situations arising in the future which will require local lockdowns or suspension of production on a limited basis. And we thought it's a good idea to share with you some of the ideas what can be done in this particular concept. Or also maybe it may be the case that you are now in the process of actually dealing with problems which arose from the main lockdown. So this may also give you some ideas how to deal with this. So in the first part, which my colleague Han is going to cover, we're going to have basically measures which can be taken if a company is forced to either scale down for commercial reasons, or possibly close down due to orders from the authority. What can be done with the employees? How can the situation be handled? And in the second part, which I'm going to cover, we, based on items discussed in one, we will show you some common cases for working arrangements. So basically how to develop flexible solutions to the extent possible with your employees. And finally, we have a short conclusion, and then hopefully some time left for question and answers. So now I'm leaving the floor to my very competent colleague Han, who will talk us through the first part of the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So we are very happy to share with you some measures during the pandemic and current outbreak in Vietnam. So pandemic made some difficult and some challenges for the company, especially in the production company. So in case the current outbreak here made some production company have to close, have to stop their operation. So how to deal with the HR matter in this matter, because because of the lockdown or because of the order from the government that the company had to stop operation. They have to stop their production, and their people, their employee cannot come to work. So how to deal with this? The Vietnamese law allows some provide some legal basis for the employer to apply. Firstly, we would like to introduce you the first measure is a work suspension. Work suspension normally will apply in case of the company certainly locked down by the order of the government. Because of that, and their employee cannot come to work. So in this case, the employer still have to, if they cannot come to work, how to deal with that? So they, the work suspension is a measure that they can consider. In some case, the government give the order the company to stop operation, for example, 14 days or 3 weeks or a month. Because of that, the employer can apply this measure, and during this period, the employer still have to pay the salary. And how to pay the salary? The two parties can agree on reduce or amend the agreed salary in the labor contract. They can agree to reduce the salary, but in all case, the salary cannot be lower than the minimum salary. So in this case, normally we recommend for the production company who cannot operate, or the employee cannot come to the company because their residence place is locked down also. Bettina, can you move to other slide? Other slide. Next slide. Yeah. So in the other measure that the employer can consider is the unpaid leave. Unpaid leave, that means the party, the employee and the employer can agree for a certain day they can work, and for a certain day they cannot work. So the employer how to pay based on this measure, they only pay for the day the employee come to work or the employee work from home. In this case, because this case only agree on the unpaid leave, there is no change anything to the salary. So there is no impact to the regional minimum salary. Even in practice, the salary may be lower than that, but there is no impact to that. During this case, if the unpaid leave period is more than 14 days, the employer also no need to pay contribute the social insurance. Can I have next slide? The other third measure is the party is to agree to amend to the labor contract. The main thing here, the amend the labor contract to maybe agree on the amendment to the salary and the working hour. So in this case, the agree the amendment to the salary must not lower than the minimum wage. So actually, this measure is also subject to the agreement of the employee also. Can I have the slide? The first measure is rather difficult, but this measure is provide the right to the employer to terminate the labor contract unilaterally. This one actually very the employer can because the pandemic is also the legal basis for the employer to based on that to use this right, but in order for the employer to apply this right, firstly they must prove that the pandemic had the impact to their operation. How to prove that? Normally, there is not very detailed provided in the law, but there's a guideline from the authority to prove the impact to their operation. Mean they can prove that they cannot get the material for production, or due to pandemic, it make impact to a certain department in the company. And as the result, such department cannot operate, or the employer have to narrow their production or their operation, and they have to reduce some. They have to reduce job also. So, but how when the employer prove that, they also they also prove that they also have the impact on their financial capacity also. So because of that, they apply other measures like work suspension, and they can consider to apply other measures like unpaid leave or amend to the labor contract to reduce the working hour, or reduce to agree to amend the salary. So if after the employer they apply on the measure, and they can prove that the pandemic had impact to their operation, and they also apply on the measure to the employee, but they still have to narrow their production or their scale of the business, then they can apply this right to terminate the labor contract with the employee. Can we have the next slide? The other measure that you can consider is to transfer the employee to work for another job different with the job agreed in the labor contract. This one also provide a right to the employer in case in case they have some difficulties due to pandemic or some other reason allowed by law. So in this case, they can consider to if a certain department in the company have the impact due to pandemic, they can answer department is narrow, or they cannot operate. So the employee can transfer the employee to the other department to work with different job. But they can only transfer the employee to work for another job maximum 60 days only. The salary for this period must be the same within 30 days. Later on, they can agree, but they can agree for another salary, but at least 85% compared to their original salary. But in on case, cannot less than the minimum wage. Can we go to another slide? The last measure is you can consider is to suspend the labor contract. This is also allowed by law that the party can agree to temporarily suspend the performance of the labor contract for a period of time. So in this case, because there is no change to the salary, so there is no impact on the requirement of the minimum salary. But if the suspend of the labor contract period lasts for more than 14 days, the party also during this suspension, the party don't need to contribute social insurance. But thing is, after the period suspension period, the employer have to receive back the employee. So this is also an option that the employer can consider. Yeah, that on the measure that we just share with you. So next part, our Michael would like to continue with the next.
Okay, thank you very much, Han, for the brief but very comprehensive overview of the measures available to employers. And when you listen to Han, then you see that she's been doing this for a while and has seen all these situations before. So therefore, it's interesting to listen, sharing her experience in this particular area. So now, the next few minutes, we're going to spend talking about basically kind of applying the items which we discussed in the first part of the presentation, and just sort of see in what areas can they be practically applied, and what are the applications and so on. So basically, we came up with sort of 3 areas which are from experience interesting in this particular area. The one is the endlessly discussed home office. Actually, the home office, I was thinking about it when we put together the presentation. So home office, I think in the UK, they actually call it working from home rather than home office, but it's just a different way of telling it. So I mean, home office is definitely it's called home office in Germany and in some other countries. So I don't know if anyone wants to share experience whether working from home or home office would be the right word here, but I think we all understand what it's meant. It's basically mostly white-collar employees working outside of the office from home. Then we have the what we summarized under the 3 on the spot measure. So this is basically about industrial and production companies where working from home is not possible. And so this 3 on the spot is just one example of these measures which production companies were subjected to during the lockdown. So here we have the 3 on the spot being the eating and the sleeping and I think double sleeping at the desk. So no, I think that's not working. Anyway, but you know exactly what I mean. So these are measures which we're going to look at adopted by industrial companies, and then about specific cases, what to do if an employee in some lockdown area, for example, is to quarantine or is subject to COVID-19 treatment, and what the response of the employer should be. So I think we can move on to the home office working from home slide to look at this a little bit closer. Bettina, if you give me the next slide. Here we go. So basically, this is about working from home or home office. And obviously, this only applies to companies where this is suitable in the first place. So this will be mostly about office workers, maybe some sales roles which from going outside can be moved into home rather than meeting people, calling them or something like that. But generally speaking, it's quite clear it doesn't apply to bus drivers and doesn't apply to production facilities to workers, because you cannot move your bus or your machines home. So this is the limited application of this is the white collar worker. So basically, if you look at these measures, it's not that in a certain situation only one thing can be applied. So in all these cases, it's a kind of a mix and match. So depending what's happening, you can usefully employ or make use of most of them or all of them of the 6 measures which Han was talking about previously. So in this particular case, home office, work from home, this can be a case where it has to be applied because of a lockdown, for example, or because a employee is quarantined. And also we have the 2 cases where we have the working from home being as per decision of the employer. For example, if the employer decides that this is the best way forward, or if the employer is forced by some government authority decision to make the decision and move all or the majority of employees to work from home. And finally, this is something which has to do with the pandemic, but not just. There may be a request from an employee to spend all or some of the working hours working from home. So what are the things to consider here? Obviously, you have as an employer, you have the duty to supply a safe working space for all employees, whether it's an office or a factory. Same applies to working from home. This is obviously a bit of a tricky question, because to what extent do you want to go? Do you want to assess the chair people are sitting on, whether it's ergonomic at home, or I mean, this obviously. There is a duty to provide a safe working experience, but there is also quite clear that there are limits to this as to what can be done and expected from the employer in this particular area. I think it's also quite important to mention that generally employees cannot refuse to work from home for whatever reason. So if home working is decided upon by the employer for whatever reason, and the work is suitable and the home environment is vaguely suitable to do it, then an employee cannot refuse to work from home under the labor contract. If on the other side employee decides requests working from home, again this is not specifically pandemic related, then it's up to the purely up to discretion of the employer to decide whether this will be granted or not. So in a normal situation, it will be: is it possible? Does the workflow permit for these sort of things? In a pandemic situation, the consideration of the employer may go one step further. For example, if you have employees being in whatever way vulnerable to the pandemic or the effects of it, then you may decide that these employees will be moved home on a priority basis to limit the risk to them. In respect of the salary payment, it's basically quite easy. It's either working or not working. So if an employee works from home, then the employer must pay the full salary, unless there is some agreement between the parties. For example, I mean, one could imagine by saying, oh, the employee saves time driving to work or some expenses on the commute and so on, and then the party to the employer, to the labor contract, decide to cut the salary because of this, subject to the agreement between the employer and the employee. So if we just jump to the next one. Next slide about the industrial application, about the yeah, precisely 3 on the spot. Again, the 3 on the spot is just an example, because we've seen some more measures. I mean, this was the one where everyone had to stay on the premises of a factory and was not allowed to go home. So we had a big tent shortage in Ho Chi Minh City for a while, because all the companies were buying them up. And sure, we've seen various other models. So it was the one where it was permitted between green zones to bus employees from their home to work, provided that the bus doesn't stop and there's limited capacity. And there was the 4 green model, I think, which I can't quite remember what exactly it meant. But basically, this is about the situation where certain restrictions are placed upon an employer who is in the business of production, and then the decision has to be made to align or change the working conditions, and also some employees may not be offered the new mode of working, or some employees may simply choose not to accept the new working of the company as requested by pandemic prevention measures. So if you look here, so what do we have to consider here? So employees basically, well, the starting point would be that employees are paid in accordance with the labor contract, whether if they stay on site or don't stay on site, stay at home. However, it's in practice, what we've seen is that almost all companies organizing these 3 on-site models reward their employees and paid them some additional allowances to motivate to stay on site. Now the question is, obviously, the second one is what on top of the practical difficulties faced by employees. So it's really difficult to predict in this particular area whether this sort of thing will happen again in terms of restrictions, and how to prepare for this. Because if you think about the practical problems companies experience and had to deal with in terms of allowing new employees subject to internal quarantine on the premises, then leaving maybe somewhere some urgent family business to attend to, and then how to deal with suppliers and deliveries and so on. So a vast magnitude of practical things to consider here, which makes it really difficult to think how a company could prepare for the next time, which hopefully will not happen anytime soon. So the next question here is what to do with employees who choose not to come to work because they are not happy with the new working conditions, or what to do with if in the particular case where only, let's say, 30 or 50% of employees are required. So basically the only thing to do is then go back to the 6 items which Han at the beginning looked at and see which one will be most applicable in the particular situation. So you see the list here, so it can be either the unpaid leave or work suspension for the employees who are not required for a specific period of time, or for employees who choose not to participate in the new work arrangements. So again, same as at the beginning, most of these cases and measures are subject to the agreement between the employees and the employer. So I think the communication between the employer and employees is key here to explain the workforce why things are being done and what measures are being taken, and I think also very importantly, what is the outlook going forward, whether the employer expects that production will be back to 100% anytime soon or not, or what the situation really is on the ground. So if we just move on to the last item on our list, the common cases for working arrangements, specific cases. This is basically just to sort of round up the cases which we experience. So the idea is here where we have 2 scenarios here really. So isolation, lockdown situations. So either if employees self-quarantined or centralized, subject to centralized quarantine, or possibly in a lockdown building due to some COVID cases. So what to do there? And then the second question is if the unfortunate case arises that a employee is an F0, an active COVID case, and requires treatment on top of the isolation and the lockdown situation, which hopefully in the future we will see less and less of, because at least in city of the high vaccination rates around. So lockdown situation, the easiest is if you have an employee who can be made to work from home. So then it's easy. Then if the situation allows for the employee to work from home, then we can go back to the initial slide and say, well, it's working from home, and because it's work, the employee is being paid in full. Then obviously you have all these cases where blue-collar workers, for example, who cannot work from home. Then the most likely case in this particular case will be a suspension of salary, but obviously taking annual leave or similar items is also possible and workable, or additionally anything which is agreed upon between the employer and employee. In terms of the COVID-19 treatment, then we have, if the employee is at home, for example, and can still work remotely, then again, it's easy. Then you can say it's working from home, and if the work is done, then salary is due. Obviously, if the employee is not able to work through the treatment period, then it's a sick leave case, basically, depending on the internal policy of the company, and also subject to payments from the social insurance fund. Now, a very tricky case, for example, if the social insurance fund does not, if the paperwork for the social insurance fund cannot be provided, for example, because of self-treatment at home rather than hospital treatment and so on, then again, this needs to be thought about. So you can think about work suspension or taking annual leave for the days where this is covered, or also agreeing upon unpaid leave with the employee. So you see all these scenarios, they sort of go back to the first 6 items, which Han explained, and basic kind of requirement is to think about your particular case and then apply one of these scenarios, which we explained at the beginning. Right, so then my last slide will be about the summary. The next one, just to mention what we sort of looked at yet again, sort of couple of highlights which we mentioned. You have seen from the first 20 minutes of the presentation that most of the options available to employer are subject to agreement with the employee. So again, communication is very important, explaining why things are happening in a specific way. And I think the other key takeaway is which I would want to highlight is that you have to decide carefully which of the 6 measures to be taken, and that termination of unilateral termination by the employer is the kind of ultima ratio, the least or the measure which is only available at the very end of if all the other possibilities are exhausted. So here we go. So that was our brief half an hour, 35 minutes introduction to our experience from a labor law point of view about the past few months. And I think we would be happy, since we've got 10 minutes or so left, to take any questions from the audience, because we're hoping we just not by ourselves here, but that's someone's hopefully listening.
No, we're not by ourselves, Michael. We have a very interested audience by our side, and I will be happy to hand in the questions that have been inserted into our question panel while the 2 of you have been presenting your slides. The first one would be: an employee is sick with COVID, go under medication in government hospital for 14 days. What would cover with social insurance, health insurance for him?
Can you repeat again?
Yes, of course. The question is, I'm sorry, there's some technical hiccups with our PowerPoint presentation this morning.
No, we are back.
I don't know what it's done. It feels like dancing. It seems like, yeah. No, can't. I'm still trying to catch it. So, if an employee is sick with COVID and has to go under medication in a government hospital for 14 days, what would cover with social insurance or health insurance for him?
So if they are treated in the hospital, they will enjoy the social insurance fund yeah. If the employee, they have the certificate from the doctor, and they have sufficient document, so they can enjoy the benefit from the social insurance for the day they have a treatment in the hospital. In that case, the employer does not pay the salary to them.
Okay.
And the treatment in a government hospital, the treatment will not be chargeable as well.
That's for government hospital, and also some other hospital that's authorized by the government.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope this covers the question. I have one more for you. Most measures require the consent of the employees. What to do if employees are not agreeable? It's a good one, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Even the employer, they apply on the measure because of this difficulty situation. thing is they can apply the unilateral termination of the labor contract if they can prove that their department or a certain department in their company already closed down due to this impact, and they also have to prove that the financial capacity is also have impact due to this by provide. It's not very clear provide in law, but you can prove the financial document or some cash flow statement, and you can also show the difficulties in getting the material for production operation, for example, like that. And after that, you also apply some measure that we already introduced you. It's like work suspension, or you already apply suspension of labor contract with the employee. In practice, you still have to schedule the production operation. So in that case, you can apply this measure by unilaterally terminate the labor contract with the employee.
And there is also a reason why we kept it to one slide, because we decided, well, we've got 35 minutes, and on this particular topic, you could probably do a 4 to 8 hour seminar in itself. So, so this is the most trickiest area of all. I mean, this is definitely, today was just to highlight the idea that yes, it is possible, rather than going into details here.
Thank you very much. So here we go with the third question. In which procedures undertaken by employers in COVID situation, the trade unions or labor office has to participate? It was in the same direction.
That's also a very good question. We introduced on the measure about that almost the measure is subject to the agreement of the employee. In almost case, because that's the agreement of the employee, so in almost case there is no involvement of the trade union or the labor authority. Yeah, even the unilateral termination of the labor contract, you can use that right, but with the condition that you already apply on the measure, and you have to prove that your operation is impacted by the situation, so you can apply that. Yeah.
Michael, you want to add anything to this? No, really addressed it in detail.
No, I think that's
it. So I have
explains it. I mean, there are many areas in Vietnamese labor and employment law where I'm gone.
Okay.
I think I was gone for maybe 10 seconds.
only for seconds, but
yeah. Am I audible now?
Questions keep coming in here, so we really touched the point. If you agree, I try to move through some of these. If we don't make it on time, I'm sure we can come back to you bilaterally, but we will try to address at least 1 or 2 of the remaining questions. How is the law dealing with REP offices, representative offices, which are not allowed to have profit, so no financial disadvantage if the employee does not work?
Yeah. Good question. So basically, I mean, in this particular case, you will have to show that how the operation is impacted. So basically, if you say, okay, I'm closing down the representative office because there's no business for my company, then this shows that there is no no room for or no requirement for particular positions which have been there in the end. So I think you can still, as in all the other situations, because you may have a non-pandemic related situation where a rep office has to close because the company simply says, okay, we had a rep office for 2 years and we tried out the market and tried to do the connecting of the main company and the market didn't work, so therefore we have to close. So I think then the general mechanics will apply. But yes, I think you cannot, for a rep office, will not be possible to show that a certain department is kind of not profitable because there is no profit to this. So you will not be able to terminate contracts based on the fact that there is no money coming in. So you will have to say, I'm either closing part of the rep office or the whole thing, and that's then the justification. But interesting question.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers the question and the thoughts behind it. I have one more. I know we're just right on time, but I'd just like to give that in again. Can the work suspension be explained one more time, maybe by giving an example also how that impacts the salary payment if the work suspension is applied for 14 days?
Work suspension apply in case the employee or the worker cannot work, and the production, for example, production department have to close due to the order of the government. So even in this case, even the employee, they don't work, but you still have the right to apply this case to apply work suspension. The salary during this period can be agreed by the party, can be lower, but must be agreed by the party. But cannot lower than the minimum wage. In case because the work suspension, you still have to pay the salary to the employee. So the parties still have to contribute to the social insurance. Yeah, based on the newly agreed salary. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I hope that answers this question as well. Should any questions have been left unattended now due to time issues, please be not afraid to send me an email and I will be happy to liaise, and we will come back to you on a bilateral basis. At this point, I may extend my sincere thanks to everyone who participated in today's session, to my dear colleagues who gave their presentations and so many explanations and answered your questions, hopefully, as well as to our audience who joined us today and stayed with us for a little bit more than an hour listening to our explanations. I hope that you found everything helpful you heard today. We will, of course, be happy to share the slide deck with you upon request, should you wish to recap on anything you heard and read today. And this session has also been recorded and will be made available online a little later for you to recap or to share with your colleagues. Once again, thank you very much, everybody, and hope to see you soon on the next occasion. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.